marriage, family, parenting, politics, and mental health, world news, and most of all, faith again. Let's go. Welcome to Message Monday. What's up, beautiful people? What is happening? It's Monday. Y'all know what day it is. It's Message Monday with your boy Tony Briscoe. My co-host Gary Dotson is not with us on tonight. I'll explain a little bit later about that. Hey, Christian men, Christian walk, Christian talk, where the sisters are always welcome. We have a dynamic guest on tonight who goes by the name of Dr. Charles C. Brown. I'll talk about him in a little bit, but y'all know we always open up in prayer. So, Father, we thank you for this evening. I thank you for my guest on tonight, Dr. Brown, who will share his thoughts from many different aspects of the many hats that he wears. But I thank you for him. I ask you to, Father, cover my brother, Gary Dotson, and his wife, Dee Dotson, as they lost a great-grandfather, that they've been taking care of over this past weekend. Just be with his family and please lift them up and cover them. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted, Lord. So we know that they are saved and do not grieve as the world grieves, but they will still have pain, especially going into this holiday week, Lord. So I pray you be with them, be with their children as they begin to navigate life in a different way, in a different space. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have on tonight, it's kind of weird because when I was typing up his name and when I was putting the flyer together, I was like, he's like 3P. He's a pastor, he's a professor, and he's a psychologist. So he got a 3P going, y'all, and I love it. 3P, P3, whatever you want to call it. We're talking tonight and talking today about dealing with holiday grief. And Professor is going to share with us his thoughts. But first thing I want to do is, Professor, please introduce yourself to the audience, to the people.
You've done an excellent job. My name is Dr. Charles C. Brown. I'm just here to share in tonight's conversation. Have a good time.
Yeah, so man, I miss having you on the air. I miss being on the air with you. First of
all,
yeah,
man, I miss it. I miss it.
Glad to have you here. This holiday season is upon us, and I know people celebrate holidays all throughout the year for various reasons. But one thing I wanted to talk about was really about ways people can deal with grief. But I first wanted to start with some definitions. And get your views. You wear many hats, first of all.
I wear a couple.
A pastor, a professor, and a psychologist. And if I just talk to a person who's a pastor who is not a professor or a psychologist, they can give their definition of what grief is. I can talk to a professor, and depending on what they're teaching, they could give a definition. I could talk to a psychologist and they can give a definition. But since you're all three, I would love to just start off talking about, how do you define grief from a natural human aspect, and then, of course, from the professional clinical side?
I define grief as a cause of great suffering or sorrow. I think that is the best definition that we can give it, because it is, I think it is both mental, it is emotional, and it is spiritual, and it's also physical as well. So I'm looking at it from that definition as a cause, something that causes great sorrow or suffering.
Yeah. So holidays are here, and a lot of things come up. We're in America, so that's what I'm speaking to. Like, I don't really know about other parts of the world. I know grief is grief, but things tend to be a bit different based on the dynamics of how we've come up as humans here in America and as African Americans. But holidays seem to bring up I don't want to say the worst in people, but the unhealed part of people.
Of course. Of course.
But we still come together to celebrate, knowing that there's going to be this aspect of grief, because grief is not just death, even though it's part of it.
Right.
Right. It could be a part of us that was lost in childhood for whatever reason.
Object, a thing.
And now we get to this place, but we still come together. So how does this part of being with family during the holidays, even those that you know you may get into it with, you may even come intentionally to have an argument with someone, but how does this all like kind of play a role when dealing with grief during the holiday?
A lot of times when as it relates to coming together, a lot of times people are trying to have some sense of normalcy, or they're trying to get out of their grief, and they're going around people thinking that they'll feel better, right? So when as it relates to the arguing, sometimes it's people don't know how to deal with the pain, they don't know how to deal with the hurt, they don't know how to deal with the grief, so they lash out in anger or frustration, and that's really their hurt side talking. You know, it's not like they're coming around to intentionally be mean or intentionally lash out at people. A lot of times they're hurting and don't know how to deal with it. They're grieving and don't know how to deal with the grief, because a lot of people don't know how to deal with grief. And I think really until you've actually really dealt with it, you don't understand it. Because when like you said, we grieve, and people think that I'm grieving just only because I lost someone, they died. But I can grieve because I lost my job. I can grieve because, you know, here's a great friendship that's over, you know, and I don't know what happened. I'm grieving because, you know, my significant other, we broke up. It's so many things that can cause grief, because at the core, we don't really expect to lose, if that makes sense. We don't expect to lose, you know, even loved ones. We don't expect to, even though we know we all got to leave here. We don't ever expect that person to actually leave. So when they do leave, here's a void in my life, because now it's like, what am I going to do now? This thing was important to me, whatever it is. You know, you can lose your car and grieve, and people don't understand that. You can have a family heirloom, a piece of jewelry that you really like, lose it, and you can grieve because now that was an extension of you or a part of you, and now it's missing, now it's gone. So now what do I do from here? What do I do with my life?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up, you know, the job piece, because it can happen so much. I remember being laid off during the week before Christmas.
Right.
And this was in my younger days of singleness. So, you know, I was living check to check like a mug back then.
Exactly.
You know, wasn't no long, you know, oh, don't forget, you got to have 3 months of your gross salary saved up. And yeah, it was none of that in my life at that time. But I remember, and what's funny about you bringing that up even is I was talking to somebody a couple of years ago, and I was like, you know, I don't think I've been the same since losing that job. That was back in 1997.
Right.
It hit me. I was just like, there were so many gaps, so many unknown. I never got a why. I knew what was going on, but I never got a why. And I was like, you know what? I'm still a part of me, even after, you know, 1997 is a long time ago.
Of course.
But it hit me that I was still holding on to some parts of that oldness.
Right.
And grieving that oldness. Part of it's probably because, man, this dude who was running the company, like if they would have gave that dude another month, I'd probably be a millionaire right now, because he was at the beginning of the dot-com boom.
Right. and that's what you just said is what causes a lot of the grief, because you just said, if I stayed there, what could have happened? Because that's where the grief is. It is, if I could have, would have, should have. I don't know. This could have worked. You know, I could have did this, or this, who knows how this could have, ended. So in my mind, it's like there is a unfinished puzzle, and that unfinished puzzle is what's causing the grief. It's like, we could have did this, or I could have did this, or this could have been this, and we just don't know it. It's that not knowing is what causes us to feel the pain and the grief, because I don't know how this could have worked out.
No, I get that. Because that's what it felt. And you'll never know. Nobody knows if.
Right.
Nobody knows if, right? Marvel Comics has found a way to make millions off
Yep.
of a series called What If.
What If? I like that series though. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good series, man.
Yeah. Right.
But,
What if?
but it's this perpetual, and it never ends. What
Right.
if this? What if that? What if how? What if what? What if when? What if where? What if I'd
Right.
have chose this? What if I'd have
Right.
it never ends. And so I like how you're looking at grief, not just in the terms of mourning, but in terms of the holistic or totality of a person
Right.
and how they wrestle with all of these things.
Exactly.
I think, you all know from the previous show, I think, when you go for roles and you don't get them, that grieving process.
Of course.
I was telling Coach, I tried to put up like I got this, God got me, it's
Right.
like, yeah, I got you, but you need to get real with how you feel though.
Exactly. And I think that's what we do in church a lot. And this is across the board, denominational wise, it's across the board that we don't really grieve in church. We don't know how to grieve in church. We're not taught to grieve in church. We don't understand that grieving is a process. So we have behind colloquialism, we have behind scripture, all things work for the good. That sounds good. But how do I deal with my emotional side? How do I deal with what I'm feeling? And then, and a lot of times we come to church, we don't want to tell people that we're grieving, because then they look at us as something wrong, or we'll say, I'm praying for you. And that I understand that prayer is good. Pray for me, but then help me where I am.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's what we'll pray, we'll lay hands, and this is the thing. We call people up to the prayer line, and this happens so often. We call people up to the prayer line and we praying for them, and we tell them that walk away, go back to your seat, and expect that person to be healed and whole. But we don't understand, many times that person, you pray for them, but they still walk away hurting because you didn't help them with their grief. Yeah. So now, and that makes it even worse, because now I done been to the prayer line. Why am I still sad? You didn't pray for me. Why am I still sad? Because we didn't teach you how to deal with grief. And if you look at the Bible, even Jesus dealt with grief when his friend Lazarus died. Yes. The shortest scripture in the Bible was Jesus wept. Yes. That is grief. He had to deal with those emotions. Thank you, God. He had to deal with those emotions before he worked that miracle. I know this Sunday, but that's out off the press for somebody. He had to deal with those emotions before he worked that miracle. So a lot of times we're dealing with the spiritual side, but we're not dealing with the emotional side. And if we don't deal with that emotional side, you're going to hit that brick wall and you're going to crash. It's going to catch up with you. And a lot of times people can grieve for years and don't know that they're grieving. As a matter of fact, in the DSM-5, now they've actually put, in the new one, they've actually put prolonged grieving as a disorder. Wow. Because yet again, people are not dealing with their grief. And it's really, as you said, it's really compounded during the holidays, because everybody is laughing and having a good time, and families are coming together. But what about if this was a special time for the person that I lost? Or as you said, this is, Christmas is next week and I can't buy my kids any toys, or I just got fired from my job. So this is a really, for some people, it's a joyous time. And for other people, it's a real sad time.
Doc, I'm going to need you to break down that DSM for the people.
Oh, the diagnostic statistical manual that we use that the clinicians use to diagnose disorders.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Right.
I Googled real fast, but I still wanted the people to know, what you're talking about and what you mean. This is, I think the pandemic heightened a lot of grief.
Mm-hmm. It did.
What have you seen, or what have you experienced in terms of, and of course, don't share anything your congregation is dealing with, or your clients for that matter, but what have you seen has been like, how has grief shown up in the pandemic, maybe before, maybe during, and maybe afterwards, that you've seen, that you're able to speak to?
So many individuals, and it's funny that you asked. I read an article a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about this in class last week, because we dealt with stress in the part of that chapter with stress. We talked about grieving, and now across the board, some in the population that's dealing with anxiety and stress the most are young people. Young people have the highest numbers of anxiety and stress. It is because of that fear. It is because of the fear of unknown. It is how they've had a major impact on their life that lasted 2 years, and then all of a sudden we expect everybody to go back to normal, and that's what everybody's looking for. This normal when now we have to create a new normal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. So the holidays, and this is you're not a stranger to this.
Mm.
You lost someone you lost
Yeah.
probably the most dearest person to you,
Yeah.
being your mother. It's
Hmm.
still fresh and it's still new.
Yep.
Was there anything left unsaid between you and your mom?
Unsaid, and that is to me that even though I'm still grieving, to me what makes it more understanding
Mhm.
or more acceptable is the fact that we talked about everything, and I lost three people back to back, right?
Yes,
First I
you
lost
did.
first I lost my father, right? Then I lost my older brother.
Yep.
Then I lost my mother.
Yeah.
And one thing about each one of those is the last words that we said. Because if one thing that and each person, and not knowing that this is the last time I would see them or talk to them, the last thing I said to each one of them was "I love you,"
Yeah.
and the last thing they said to me was "I love you." So the last time I saw my father, he had left church, and I was like, "All right, love you, pops." We gave each other a hug. He told me I love you. My brother, the last time I saw him was the exact same thing. Told him I love you, bro. He said I love you, bro. My mother on her deathbed, the last thing I told her was I love you, and the last thing she told me was she loved me. So I think it is that because we didn't end on this argument. We didn't have you know
Trauma.
right. So it's not like we had issues with none of them or anything like that. So I don't have that guilt. Whereas I could have said this or I should have said that. I
Yeah.
don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
I,
the
and I should
grief is still there.
I should have warned, like, this may trigger some people. So by all
Right.
means, if you don't,
Exactly.
but I think you need the conversation, fam. Like we wouldn't be having it, and Dr. Brown wouldn't be on sharing
Right.
if we didn't think this was valuable, especially during this time. Doc, so how do people who have lost their loved ones, they never got to say that. They never got to have the conversations to bring closeness back. They
Right.
never got to have the conversations that deal with reconciliation. Where do they even start to try to pick up the pieces of the burden that they walk around with? And it may not be a visible burden.
Right.
Surely internally, it's got to be draining and physically impactful.
Of course. And I would say this, and I say this to anyone that it's hard to do that work on your own. I would say that seek out a licensed professional counselor that can work through that stuff with you. They can unpack that emotion that you're carrying, unpack that grief that you're carrying, and teach you how to work through it. Because yet again, it's a process. It is a process that we have to go through, and not only is it a process, it's stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So we go, those are the 5 stages of grief that we go through. I'll say those again: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And you go through those stages. And not only do you go through those stages, you may revisit a stage. You may have dealt with bargaining and all of a sudden go back to anger because of unresolved issues. So you may revisit the stage, and you actually need someone that can help you work through that because it's a process. It is a process.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's a huge undertaking. I
Yeah.
want to repeat that for the people. You said denial,
Hmm.
anger, bargaining,
Bargaining
depression,
and
and
acceptance.
acceptance.
Exactly.
So
Because
lean into what is the bargaining? Like I'm curious to know how that plays out.
a lot of times, like just say, we do it in church all the time. We do it with God all the time. You know, you got this bad report. God, if you do this for me, I'll never do this again. You don't have to worry about
fleece. We pulling a fleece.
Exactly. And that's what bargaining is. Like, Lord, if you heal me, then I'll do everything right. If you bring him back, I'll do everything right. And that's trying to kind of ease the burden that we're carrying, you know, that and everyone's going to go through it as they grieve. And it is the process that takes a toll on us.
Yeah, you know, I went to see my mom, my biological mother, my foster mom, who I call mom, like she's not a foster mom to me.
Right.
You know, and whenever I talk to her, she's like, "How's your mom doing?" Like she makes sure, like, "How's your mom?" I don't
Right.
care. How's your mom?
Right.
You know, she's always. And it's when I went to see my mom a couple weeks ago. I got to go see her this week to take her some food and feed her. And whenever mom sees me, it's like she immediately wants to go into crying.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to go into apologizing. And Doc, I'm being straight, open, and transparent here. I'd be like, "Yo, ain't no crying in baseball. Kill all that."
Right.
And
Right.
that's literally what I told her. And she looked at me 2 weeks ago. She was like, "What baseball got to do with that?"
Right.
I said, "Look, because it's like you've apologized so much over the years. The last 30 years, you've literally spent apologizing. Like, I'm good. I'm here. You've expressed why you did what you did." And I told her, I'm gonna be honest, that could be your best answer. That's still not gonna ever mean anything to me because I could ask you 1,000 times, you're gonna say the same answer, and I'm
Right.
never gonna be satisfied by that.
Right.
But when you say, I prayed that you and your brother would have a better life, that you all would turn out to be great young men, and you couldn't be that with me,
Right.
I may not understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like every time I see her, she's grieving.
Right. That's what I was
Right?
about to say.
She's grieving, and I'm just not. I don't want to deal with that stuff.
Right. And I'm not saying that this is happening,
Yeah.
but maybe she needs to forgive herself, you know, by asking. She's asking you to forgive her, but it might be her in need of, you know, to forgive herself.
Yeah, yeah, and I've shared that with her.
Right.
I've shared that with her, but I think it's like you said, it's not a switch.
Right.
It's something that's got to be
A process.
It's
Yeah.
a process that has to
Exactly.
continually be worked on.
Right.
I think I was doing well with my dad when he passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing well up until the point me and my sister were sitting down talking, and I was like, "Hey, like, how did it feel for you growing up without dad?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "You know, because I'm thinking if he didn't take care of us."
Right.
And that she said, "That's not my experience. I've never gone a year without seeing him."
Really?
And that sent me to a whole nother space.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Sent me to a whole other space.
Right.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. What
Right.
made us not good enough? Again, because
Exactly.
we internalize these things.
Of course. Of course.
So then I had to start this anger process again.
Right.
I had to go through this, this denial process again.
Yeah.
Everything you just said, anger, denial, the bargaining piece is
Right.
really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and I wouldn't say, because I do want you to define depression next, but I think I went through a depressed phase because it was like another knife to say, you still not good enough, bro. You weren't good enough. And I'm a kid. I had zero to do with him leaving at all.
Right.
I know this, but trying to process that and accept that, it was just like, man, it just played tricks. It played tricks on my head, man. So what is depression, Doc? Like, define that for us. I know everybody's got their own statements, but again, you might three-peat. So from a professional lens, from a pastoral lens, and from a psychologist lens.
And we try to have this grand definition of depression when really it is a very simple definition. Depression is persistent sadness. That is the definition of depression. It is a persistent sadness, and the reason why we call it depression is because that person has been sad for a prolonged period. So they're not just, because we all experience sadness. from different situations and different circumstances, and it comes and goes. But when you had a persistent sadness, then it can be called depression.
Wow. That's a real simple, non-complicated.
And that's exactly that's it. Persistent sadness. Yeah.
Persistent
Yeah.
sadness.
Right.
Persistent sadness.
And that persistent sadness can have a internal cause or an external cause. Depends on the individual and the type of depression that it is. If it's an external cause, something has happened in the person's environment, say at a loss, something of that nature that caused the depression. If it's an internal cause, then it's a chemical imbalance that's caused the depression. So it's always a cause for it.
Yeah. So when people are going into, those who celebrate even Thanksgiving, then going into Christmas, going into New Year's, what are some ways that they can prepare themselves to be around family?
I like that. How they can navigate the holiday grief. For me, this I'm gonna tell you, just to be open and honest, this show is on time, and I know if it's on time for other for me, it's on time for other individuals as well. Because when you first pitched the idea, and I looked at it, I was like, I want to do that. I want to talk about that. You know what I'm saying?
And
Because
I thought, I'm sorry to cut you off.
right,
I didn't think about how fresh this is for you.
right, right,
I didn't. I was just like, you ask somebody something, and then it's like I started
right,
thinking about like, dude, you were just at Doc's mom funeral, bro.
right.
That was not a long time ago, bro. And you
That-
call him to do this? No,
right,
I thought about it afterwards. After I was like, oh man. But please continue, Doc.
right. But
And I'm sorry for that because
it's
that's
no problem at all. It's no
yeah,
problem. It's therapeutic. It's really therapeutic to talk about, because for me, I got to be honest. I've always been this holiday guy. Christmas is my favorite time of year. You know, I'm one of them individuals that the day after, if you looked at Facebook on November 1st, I said season's greetings. You know what I'm saying? That was the day after Halloween. I was like, Merry Christmas, season's greetings. Because I've always been this person. I'm this holiday individual. But last year and this year, it hasn't been the same. It's like it's still that like, man, for Thanksgiving we normally go with my mom's house to eat. So like, what do we do now? For Christmas we're gonna go to my mom's house and open presents. But in the absence of that, now it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? So I even felt like I want to go somewhere because I didn't want to be here for Christmas. I don't want to be here for the holidays. I want to be somewhere else doing something else.
yeah.
But that's where looking at me and trying to find a reasoning for how I feel. So there's certain things that I kind of written down that I'm doing and maybe can help someone else along the way.
Yeah.
And I say that the first thing is how when we're navigating this time of year, navigating this loss, the first thing that we need to do is set realistic expectations. And I think that is the most important thing during this holiday. Set realistic expectations. That don't try to do everything. Don't try, and if it's your normal, say normally you do all the cooking, or normally you do all the shopping, or you the one to go pick up everybody. You may not have the bandwidth this year, so you need to be real, be honest and open with yourself and with other individuals as well, as we're making these plans. Like, to this year, I won't be able to do that. I don't have the bandwidth, or I can do this, but I can't do that. So I think that's one of the first things that we have to do is set realistic expectations. What is it that I'm going to do? And then what is it that I'm not going to do? And then being comfortable with that. If you can't do it, don't feel bad that you can't do it. Just know you can't do it. This year I can't play Santa Claus for everybody. This year I can't be the cab driver for everybody. This year I can't make sure everybody is good. I just can't do it this year. And that's okay.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I
Yeah.
love that. You know, it's interesting because I was thinking about when my dad passed away. It was my first time meeting my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Never met her, never known her my entire life.
Right.
And so she's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, I'm driving the other day and I'm like, man, ain't gonna be no Thanksgiving at Aunt Irma's.
Right. Right.
It just
Hit
like
you.
back to back.
Right.
Lost her daughter, then we lost her. So it was like a cousin I didn't
Right.
know my whole life.
Right.
And then it's like she's gone. And
Exactly.
she did everything. And dinner was always late. And I mean
Right.
late. Like we eat like 9 o'clock, man. But
Right.
it was auntie. Everybody knew auntie gonna have
Exactly.
she didn't want nobody else cooking. And
Right.
so I'm thinking about that and how she always made me my own little mini sweet potato pies to put to the side so I can take
Mm-hmm.
home. I'm thinking about all these things
Exactly.
that I'm not
Exactly.
gonna have anymore.
Exactly.
And it just hit me driving the other day, and I'm like, man, auntie is really
Really gone.
gone. And I
Yeah.
didn't have that much time with her.
Right. And then how much is if we were together 50 years or 60 years or 80 years, it's still not enough time, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. We got one that is to set realistic expectations.
Yep.
And then that comes with not letting anybody put a burden on you that
Exactly.
you can't handle or don't want to take on.
Exactly. Let your no be no.
Yeah,
No, I can't
I'm
do it.
mourning grandma this year, so I'm not
Right.
trying to pick grandma's recipes.
Exactly. Right. Yep.
I'm not doing it. I'm not breaking out the book
Right.
and sticking to the. Hey, I can't come to your place this year.
I can't do it this year. Yeah.
And sticking to that.
Yeah.
So setting realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And these are like this is a protective mechanism for
Exactly.
you because once you go off of your expectations and setting your expectations, if you do them, now they're going to be triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And the next statement is, this is why I don't do
Right.
with family. This is why
Exactly.
I don't
Right.
come around.
Yep.
And then that's when the explicit will start
Right.
to fly out. And all of a
Exactly.
sudden,
Right.
because you went against your expectations,
Exactly.
everything is blown out of proportion.
Right. Exactly.
Got it, Doc.
I
That's
like
good.
that. Yep.
What else you got? What else you got?
Tap into your support system. Don't be afraid to talk. That is one of the most important things. Because like now, so for a lot of us, you've been the rock or you've been everybody else's support system. Now it's time for you to tap into your support system. Find somebody to talk to and somebody that you can be open and honest with. That may not when I say talk, I'm not looking for me. I'm not looking for advice. I'm not looking for your opinion. Maybe I just need to vent. Maybe I just need to just have a conversation with someone, or maybe I just need to be around somebody. When I say tap into your support system, it doesn't mean that we got to have a cry, we got to talk, whatever. We can go out. Let's go out to eat. Let's go out to dinner. Let's watch a movie. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's going to maybe take my mind off of what I'm thinking about, even if it's for a short time. So don't do the holidays alone. I really believe that. And yet again, that doesn't have to be a big party of a big group of individuals, but tap into your support system. Find somebody to talk to. That is incredibly important.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thanks so much. And I do want to pause because I did want to acknowledge that I never really looked at grief in different ways until I got called up after 9/11 for the military. But I'm thinking particularly right now about a very good friend of mine, old colleague, I should say, but was always a rock solid. She just came, Doc, from a full bilateral mastectomy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking a woman who's super young, super fit. I mean,
Wait, she had a what?
Bilateral mastectomy. So a double mastectomy.
Okay, got you. Right.
So you talk about that grief part.
Right.
Like, there are so many women out there right now who are grieving the loss of their breasts. And I just wanted to pause and acknowledge that because that's a grief process.
Yes.
That's you can never forget. Memories may fade of people over time, depending on how close you were to them. But I just wanted to stop and acknowledge for the women out there. I know there's a rare number of men, but for the women out there that know you are cared for, and I encourage you to also seek the help that you need to deal with this new you,
Right.
this different you, and what that means to you and your womanhood. I just wanted to pause and acknowledge that, unlike the media, black men do know what black women go through. We're not foolish and we're not stupid. We're aware of what's going on, and I wanted to just pause and acknowledge that quickly. And one thing I'm grateful our church has is a consolation ministry that meets every month. And then they learned they had to have a separate one for men who were dealing with prostate cancer. And they just like they really were intentional with setting up, because men was like, yeah, we ain't with that we ain't sharing in no group session. Like if it's men, we'll share, but we don't do mixed grief sessions.
Right. Right.
But they were still open to the help. So I just wanted to pause and acknowledge that because I just wanted to pause and acknowledge that, Doc. Find the support system at the end of the day. That's the biggest piece.
That's the biggest piece.
And when I know people are going through, there are people I put them in contact with, like to say, hey, I've got a resource for you.
Right.
You're ready for it. Let me know and I'll make the arrangements for you.
Right.
And that goes even more now for, I went through this Landmark program. I'm not sure if you've heard of Landmark for Living. But they really deal with blind spots in people's lives. So if you say, yeah, I'm grieving, they help you dig into the why.
Right.
Why are you grieving? Why are you grieving the loss of a job? Why are you grieving the loss of a person? Why are you grieving really the loss of relationships? And, I want to sidetrack real quick, because one thing we don't talk about is the grief that comes with divorce, man.
Of course.
Like the tearing, any breakup.
Yeah, the loss of relationship.
That can be really heavy and long-lasting heavy. And people rush into relationships. Again, you said that, you talk about the bargaining piece. Oh, I'll just, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll compensate.
Right.
I'll use a compensating control to deal with my grief of this relationship. And then, of course, it's the holidays coming up. So, people are thinking,
right.
And last year I was with such and such, man, and we really had a good time. And now this year I'm alone. Like, how am I going to deal with that?
Right.
And you just got me looking at grief in a whole different lens now, man.
And then, you know how everybody gonna have their matching pajamas on, social media pictures, and somebody gonna be trying to figure out where my matching pajamas, and that's grief. That's grief.
Yeah. We say it in a joking way, but I mean, laughter is healing for the soul, and it's true.
Yeah,
it is true. It is true. 2 points. So set realistic expectations of you and your time and where you fellowship during the holidays. Find a support system. Find somebody to talk to.
Yep.
What else you got?
And I think this is my favorite. And I've really been telling people this. Know that it is okay not to be okay. And I think that's, especially this is for men. And I see that your broadcast is for men and women. This goes out to women as well. But for men, know that it's okay not to be okay. Because a lot of times we put this front up that I'm fine, that I'm okay, that everything is going to be all right. But yet again, it is okay for me to say I'm not okay right now. I like that. You see that, Michael?
Yeah, that's my man, Mike Wiley. Yeah, Mike says, "Don't tell me how I should feel. Understand why I'm feeling the way I am."
Exactly.
And that means people have to engage.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's what we find. People don't really want to know.
And so don't just like you say, and you really don't know how I feel. You don't, even if it happened to you, you don't know how I feel, because this is a personal experience. Just say, I lost my mom, you lost your mom. You may have had a different relationship with your mom than I had.
100%.
So I never can tell you I know how you feel, because I don't know how you feel. And that's not validating my emotions.
Yeah, I had a buddy in high school. He lost his dad senior year. Watched his dad die. They were on a roof together, and his dad slipped. And I remember, I don't know how, I've always had a knack for finding the perfect card, but I remember the words that I wrote him inside of that card.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know how you feel.
Right.
I don't ever want to know how you feel. But if you need me, I'm here.
Right.
That was it. Doc, he did not talk for almost 90 days in school.
That's grief.
That's grief.
Mm-hmm.
90 days, almost 90 days, he remained silent, man. And I mean, when I say silent, Doc, I mean silent.
Right. He had to work through some stuff. I'm telling you.
He had to work through some stuff.
Yeah. And that's not unheard of. We deal. And that's another thing that people need to understand is you can't tell me how to grieve. Everybody's going to grieve differently. Yeah. You can't tell me how long to grieve because everybody's going to grieve differently. Then you can't say, that's enough. Or a lot of times when we're grieving, we're looking for closure. And we can't, there's no way I can close on my grief. And a part of you, especially like when you lose a loved one, a part of you will grieve that person for the rest of your life. We just learn how to accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that really irks me is like when you tell somebody you should be over this by now.
Never tell a person that. Right. Yet again, we grieve differently.
Yes.
And right. And we grieve for and you can't tell me how you can't put a time limit on my grief.
Yeah, and I think people just really need to just step back and I still catch myself doing this, Doc. I really have to, and I think I even did it with you. It's that natural instinct to just ask people how they're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's and as soon as it comes out of my mouth, I'm like,
but it's okay to ask somebody how they doing. If you really, you know what I'm saying? If you really want to know, because I ask people how they doing all the time. But I lost my dad almost 27 years ago. I never got over. I just learned. Exactly. I love that. I lost my dad almost 27 years ago. I never got over. I just learned how to live with it. Because how can I get over losing someone that I love? And like you said, we tell people just get over it. Just get over it. No, we just learn to adjust. That is it. We adjust.
Yeah. Mike says
I still have days when it hit me. Yep. Me too. Me too. Yeah. And that's why I said it is okay not to be okay. That today, and I can say that today I'm not okay. Tomorrow, I may be okay, but today I'm not, and that is fine. I'm not broken. I'm not defective. Today I'm just not okay. Which is the next point that goes with that. Number 4 is allow yourself to feel. And I think that, and this is from a male perspective. As men, we have to allow ourselves to feel.
What does that mean?
When I said again.
What does that mean?
Actually feel what I'm going. When we talked about the 5 stages, right? Allow yourself to feel that anger. It is okay. Even the Bible says anger, but sin is not. Allow yourself to feel the sadness. Allow yourself to feel the pain. Allow yourself to feel the joy. Allow yourself to feel. And I think that's where a lot of times, because what we'll do is put up a wall and block our emotions, put up a wall and say, I'm okay. Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. And there's nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. But then it's I'm not being authentic to myself. I'm not letting myself feel my emotions. I like that. It's okay to be vulnerable and have feelings, and that is okay. It does not make me weak that I'm showing. It does not make me weak that I'm crying. It does not make me weak that I'm hurting. It makes me human. And I think that the whole part of grieving is knowing that I'm human. It's knowing that my feelings are valid, my emotions are valid. So it is okay to allow. Don't look at it as being weak, or don't look at it as being something that I cannot do. You have emotions for a reason. Every emotion that you have is valid. Allow yourself to feel. And I love this and this hot off the press. When you allow yourself to feel, you then can start to heal. Write that down. Quote that. Post that, tweet that.
When you allow yourself to feel,
then you can start to heal.
Then you can start to heal.
Somebody make a t-shirt.
That's a good t-shirt.
Yeah,
good t-shirt. Running back, so they can see the whole you. Exactly. I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is really good, Doc. 5th point. What you got?
Another one.
Now wait a minute. You usually do 8. How many you got?
I only got 7.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. I'm gonna do 8.
Yeah, I mean,
Man, I missed
you can
this.
do as many as you want because you can drop some more nuggets in here in
I
between.
missed
So
this.
it's all
I
good.
missed this. Number 5, create a new tradition. And that's a part of the healing process, because a lot of times I like that. A lot of times we cannot heal because we are stuck to what we used to do, which is what I just said a few moments ago about earlier how we said about every year we go to my mama's house and every year we do this, every year we do that. As long as my mind is stuck there, forgetting those things that's behind, reaching forward to those things that's ahead. So now what I have to do now is I need to create a new tradition that's incorporating where I am right now, because I'm not there anymore. And as long as we do it the exact way we used to do it, I'm tying myself into what was. So now let's do something new. Instead of having, I'm gonna mess with somebody. Instead of having sweet potato pie, this year we're gonna have pumpkin pie, huh? Have pumpkin pie this year. Create a new tradition, and as we are, I like that. As we are creating a new tradition, honor our loved ones. You know what I'm saying? Light a candle for them, acknowledge them in some way. That helps you as well, because we're not forgetting that they were there. What we're doing is embracing this new way of living, because that's what adjustment is. Adjustment is not saying, I don't remember what we have. Adjustment is now, how do I live my best life today?
Yeah. Mike said
like
most new traditions help you to move forward. Right now, sometimes that's hard for people to do because they believe that when they don't carry on old traditions, they're not honoring the memory of that lost loved one.
Exactly. And a lot of times by doing that, you are really opening old wounds. You are really hurting yourself over and over again, because now it is hard for me to move forward if I'm afraid that if I do something different, I won't be honoring my ancestors' memory, or I won't be honoring my mother's memory, or it won't be right. But really, that's adjusting, because it's not going to be the same. And I think that's what we need to realize. Okay, this year Christmas won't be the same, but it does not mean I can't celebrate. This year Thanksgiving won't be the same, but it does not mean I can't celebrate. So now I create a new tradition, and I'm honoring the old. I might add some in, but I'm not going to be tied to that, because tied to that may be where my pain is. So create a new tradition.
Yeah, no, that's good. My wife and I, till it got hijacked, and we allowed it to be hijacked. We used to do the day after Thanksgiving, we would do dinner every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But we would do it with people we didn't get to spend time with throughout the year, be it friends or family.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then one year I had my family over, and they just took it. Like, they was just like, "Are we gonna do it somewhere? And I was just like, at the time, because my family is not as tight as I believe. It's pockets of tightness, but it's like, it's not like my wife family. Like, her family, like they deep tight. She's on the phone with her sisters. They talk every day.
My wife too. They talk every
morning,
sometimes 2 or 3 times a day.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
So we don't have that kind of Mike. Don't get me, Mike. We're not even going there with you, bro. We're not gonna do that today. No, we not. I'm with Pastor. It's time to
come on here. That's what I'm saying. Come on here. We having pumpkin pie this year. We trying something new.
Okay. Yeah, your family found out they're gonna have a new tradition too. Yeah, they ain't gonna include you no more, which may be part of the plan, though. I don't know. Yeah, but we did this tradition because we were just like, you know what? There are people I just don't get to spend time with all throughout the year.
Right.
But since the family has, taken it, it's the families now. So that's what I do on Fridays now. I do on Fridays now, and we got some family that don't come. That's on them. That's their choice.
Right. They can't worry about that.
Yeah, that's their business. They be like, who ain't come? I don't know.
Okay. You here, I'm here. That's all that matters.
Just leave the peach cobbler and ice cream alone, and we good.
Exactly. Right. And the pumpkin pie.
No pumpkin pie, Doc. No pumpkin.
Number 6.
Yes, sir.
Be patient with yourself. And I think this goes along with giving yourself time to grieve. Really be patient with yourself. Go through the process. Give yourself time to grieve. Don't put more on your plate than you can handle. It is okay, yet again, as we said earlier, to say that I can't do this. Come on here.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah. Hey, lattes and pie, two different things. Okay,
if you can drink pumpkin spice latte, you can eat a pumpkin pie.
Oh, don't get it twisted. My wife makes an excellent pumpkin pie.
Oh, she does?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Guess who's coming over for Christmas?
Oh, she'll put it down. She'll put down a good pumpkin pie.
Man,
Mike, you're gonna be off my pumpkin spice, bro. And I've only had one this year, Mike. That's a miracle for me. Let me first add that. Okay.
You gotta get caught up. It's pumpkin season. You gotta get caught up.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. Be patient with yourself. Why is it that we have a natural propensity to give grace to everybody but
ourselves? We're much harder on ourselves. We can forgive everybody but ourselves. We can be patient with everybody but ourselves. We be understanding with everybody but ourselves. And sometimes we are our own worst enemies. So give yourself time to heal. Give yourself time to mourn. Give yourself time to grieve. Give yourself time to move on. It may not happen overnight. It may take time, and that's okay. Along the way, you may have some ups and downs. That's okay. That is a part of the journey and the process. If you can be patient and understanding with everybody else, how about be a little patient with yourself, especially during this time? Today you may sometimes before, let's say, you may have been one of the individuals that by now you'd have had all the gifts wrapped, or you would have done all your Christmas shopping. You'd have had the house would have been clean by now. You would have had your list together, and this year's just not there, and that is okay. Be patient. You may not even do all that this year, and that is fine as well. But now don't let yourself be overwhelmed with things that is going to cause more stress than need be.
Yeah, Doc, it is. I'm going to do some math real quick because I know someone who lost a parent. They have not grieved yet.
Mm-hmm.
Lost a parent 2009.
Right.
Not grieved.
Or they may be grieving in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's really interesting because I know from personal work that I've done why I don't like letting things go or people go.
Right.
Job, people, it's like, well, counseling pointed out like, well, Tony, you're in foster care. So you don't expect anything long term. And so you enter relationships with people, you have this expectation of things that you just don't want to let go of.
Right.
It's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Loss is a part of life.
Right.
And I was just like, yeah, I don't like your answer.
It's true.
But it's true. It's true, right? It's like trying to really process this thing in a great way. I've got a young lady. I had her on this one of my other shows a long time ago. She calls, I think it's either Grace and Grief. I think it's Grace and Grief.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamic young lady, lost her husband. They had 4 children, and it spawned a ministry for her to help other people who did not know how to deal with their grief. And I mean, people were coming in droves to her events. Like, so the need is there.
Right.
Majority of women, but the need is there.
It's there. It is there.
For people to just really, I believe people really want to open up.
I do as well.
People really want to share. They just don't know how, and the right tool is not being placed in front of them to do it, or the right people are not being placed in front of them to do it. Because there are people who will say, get over it. How do you get over the loss of a child?
You can't.
My brother will never get over losing his son, especially the way he lost him just adds to it.
Right, exactly.
We're just coming off Elder Dotson and I. He was teaching a class called How to Study the Bible, and there were two ladies in the class. They were like, "Hey," one of them said, "Pray for me. Tomorrow's the anniversary of the 2-year anniversary of my daughter being killed." Well, that triggered the woman behind her who was like, "Wow, the day after tomorrow will be the year 3 of my daughter being killed."
Right.
Like right there in that space, two people found a commonality
Right.
that has bonded them.
Right.
So just the need to even share. And she was clear. I don't want to talk about it. I just need y'all to just make sure y'all
Exactly.
don't ask me how, when, what, why,
Right.
where.
Right.
Just do y'all piece, ministers. That's all I want y'all to do. I don't need anything else. But it was just the sharing and the reaching out. Just to do that had to take strength.
Of course. Yeah.
Had to take power.
Dates and times can trigger grief. Dates and times, calendars can trigger grief.
Yeah. What you got, number 7, Doc?
Last one, I think is real important as well. The last one, don't cancel the holiday. I know that you're hurting and you're grieving, but don't cancel the holiday. Find some way to celebrate, in the midst of all that you're going through. Even if it's not a big celebration, find some way to know, because note this, that we are still here. We're still here, and we are still progressing through life. So it is okay to celebrate. Don't call off the holiday. Don't cancel Christmas because of your grief.
I was wondering when you were gonna get into my video, and you just did.
Really?
Oh yeah, you all in my mess. I was like, oh, this dude, I ain't calling him on this show no more ever again. This is Dr. Brown's last time on Message Monday, people. No, it's interesting, Doc, because I have worked. This is my wife's this is her fave. Like you, November 1st, but she probably turned on the radio on 93.9 because they play Christmas music all year.
So did I. I had it in my car. Sure did.
WXRT or whatever, but it's like I have intentionally have to get my mind ready for this season.
Right.
Because there is a natural cloud that just comes over. And I know, because the Lord has shown I am not my past.
Right. Exactly.
And my family is not my past.
Exactly.
And if I'm not my past and they're not my past, I don't need to live in the past.
Right.
But I have to remind myself.
Exactly.
Doc, I'm talking about making sure I am. He said, "Little drummer is a banger." Mike is crazy.
It is.
Little drummer, you are funny, dude. You are funny tonight. I have to intentionally make sure, and I don't look at it as being phony. When I need my space, I'll dip away.
Of course.
Then I'll go back in.
Exactly.
I start doing opposite the last few years of what I didn't do the first 15 or 16, the first 7, probably first 18 years of marriage, right? I only got 22 years in the game. Whenever I feel like being alone, I make sure I'm around people.
Right.
I just, even if I don't talk, I make sure I'm around people.
Right.
It's like a spiritual warfare.
Because
the enemy loves to isolate us.
Of course.
If he can irritate us and isolate us and get us alone, that's when he does most of his work on the mind.
Exactly.
So I've shifted to just make sure I'm around people.
Right.
And I'm an extrovert. But these days is holiday seasons are my most introverted seasons. But don't cancel the holiday.
Don't cancel the holiday.
Means don't live in the past.
Exactly.
And that's what it can mean something for completely different for y'all. But for me, when he said it, I was like, oh, here we go. Here all of my video now. Because it means for me, don't live in the past.
Exactly. You keep living. Keep living.
Keep living. Keep pushing.
Right.
Keep remembering. Mike says, I'm an introvert with extroverted tendencies. Now, use an extrovert, bro. I listen to your show. Use an extrovert. Stop fronting.
Okay, what kind of show does he have?
Mike has a show, Man Up. Mike, put your show name out there so I can put it up. Mike has a show every Friday. I'm not sure if he's broadcasting this Friday because of the holiday week, but he has a show every Friday. I think it starts at 7 o'clock. I think he goes from 7 to 9, not 8 to 10. But Mike, correct me on there. But he's got a show, and he's hilarious. And then he just added his sister to his show. So he got him and his brothers, and now he got his sister. Man up, real talk. His sister is hilarious. She thugged out too. Don't tell her I said that, Mike, because she may trace my IP address again. But yeah, so Mike is one of the guys who I listen to his show. Talks about current topics. He mixes things up. He often plays devil's advocate. Y'all probably get along great, Doc. He's got a show, but he's hilarious. Man Up Real Talk, stream live on YouTube and Facebook on Fridays. That's the name of his Facebook group too, his page. Man Up Real Talk. But there's another guy I have on often, him and his wife Tina Phillips, Eddie and Tina Phillips. Eddie's he's like the Black history historian. Like, I don't care if it took place over.
I remember him.
Yeah, Eddie, man.
Yeah,
Eddie is a treasure trove of information.
Mm-hmm.
So so those are the folks. So hey, y'all, we're gonna run by the 7 ways of dealing with grief. Setting realistic expectations.
Mm-hmm.
What you will engage, what you won't engage. Finding a support system, someone to talk to. Know that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Know that it's okay not to be okay. Allow yourself to feel and own what you feel.
Yep.
Create a new tradition. So for the family members who are no longer here, just create something new in your way to remember. I've got a good friend who told me what they do for her son who's gone for years. And I was like, yeah, what do you do? What do you do? Because I'm thinking, it doesn't have to be something big. She says, we put a special ornament in our tree where we're the only ones where it is. And I was just like, wow. So it could be something that's so small that nobody's going to know, but you all know
something to them. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Be patient with yourself.
Yep.
We got to give ourselves some grace, y'all.
Yep.
We are our worst critics often. And most of that's due to outside stimuli.
Exactly.
Something that happened. And then don't cancel the holiday.
Exactly.
Celebrate. So, family, this is Dr. Charles C. Brown.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, no, man. Thank you for being here. He don't know what he's asking for. He said, Pastor, I would love to have you on to share this with our viewers. Woo! Yeah. Hey, reach out to him. So no I'll connect you all in a messenger, Doc, if that's okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'll connect you all, man. Dr. Brown, man. He didn't even get into comedian mode tonight, Mike, because he is hilarious, bro.
No, I was a comedian now.
not a comedian tonight for the topic, but he'll have some good jokes in there. Hey, Dr. Brown, thank you for
having me.
The mic tonight. I appreciate you being here. Family, y'all know how we do. This is Christian Men, Christian Walk, Christian Talk, Message Monday. Please keep my brother Gary Dotson in prayers. He was not able to join on tonight. I know we got probably taking December off, fam. Don't look for us in December. I know I've said that before. So if I come on, it's because I love what I'm doing and I love talking to y'all and chatting with y'all. But until then, may the peace of God that passes all understanding guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. It's your boy, Tony B. And y'all know how we do. Message Monday. We out of here. Welcome to Message Monday. Christian Men, Christian Walk, Christian Talk with your hosts, Tony Briscoe and Gary Dotson. We discuss faith, marriage, family, parenting, politics, and mental health, world news, and most of all, faith again. Let's go. Welcome to Message Monday.